presentation today is on quality course design. Our team in CITL over the last 3 years has been working and had every faculty member that started in those, like the first 2 years of that 3 years that they've been working here, have went through an Ultra course review. As they transition from Blackboard Original to Blackboard Ultra, every person had at least one course reviewed. And so as we went through that process, we as a team gathered information on the challenges and the strengths that our faculty had in course design, and it helped to inform this presentation. And today what we're doing is we're aiming at FQAS competency, that's 4, which is teaching methods, and standard 13, there's 15 total FQAS standards, that is facilitate learning. And so one of the key skills of our faculty at Blackhawk, whether you're full-time or an adjunct, is the ability to build courses and then to utilize that course, whether it's in person, it's a MyEd Choice, it's a Flex Lab, or it's a clinical or any other type of course with your students so that they can find success. So I'm not going to read the blip up there. That was in your invite. But the goals here, we want to describe the purpose of Quality Matters and related development opportunities. Quality Matters is one of the review options that we have, along with OLC and Blackboard exemplary standards. And we are actually working on a brand new rubric going forward. But there are lots of opportunities for training within Quality Matters and OLC to help you grow along with your CITL team here in your course design. So we're going to identify key QM rubric standards affecting online course design quality. There are ones that make it more clear, help with UDL. Review sample course elements. So we're going to go through 3 different courses. We're going to go through a course that is MyEd Choice. We're going to go through a Flex Lab, and we're going to go through a clinical and take a quick tour. One of the highlights when I started here is we would do spotlights on people's courses, and people, what we found was when they watched other people's courses, you know, you have a one design element. When you look at other people's courses, just like if you were to watch them teach, you can get new ideas on how you could maybe change how you do your courses. And then we're going to have you kind of think about a measurable course improvement that you can make based on this here presentation. And I'll keep rocking and rolling here. So this is the QM rubric. This is updated as of, I believe, 2024 was the last time. It's version 7. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I know there's lots of words on here, but Quality Matters, this is a nonprofit. It's internationally recognized review of courses. Okay. The 4 I really want to look up here, there are 8 parts. I want to look at course overview and introduction. Like, getting your class started the correct way and having a strong start here. We are going to start to think about some new things within our course design, like AI policy. We should consider those as you're getting through the start here, having the grading policy in the start here, but all the things your students need in that start here to be prepared best to take your course. And there are, as you can see over here, 9 standards all about the start here. And that we found in the past was, I believe, the start here in the student support module, which I'll talk about next, learner support, were 31% of the course review. So, but the learner support, we have a student support module in there that covers many of those items. We've done that for you. And every semester, you are going to have a student support module drop into your course, brand new and updated for that semester. And Tim, our Blackboard admin, is the person that's always overseeing that, making sure things are current so that your students have the best information on how to get to tutoring services, what's in the care center, or whatever else is necessary to be updated and changed. The next thing I want to talk about is learner objectives. Very key that you make those like they need to show up in your course and be transparent to students, but you also have to show connections to those learning objectives. In this past year for our FQS foundations, we've talked about backwards design. We've talked about UDL. We've talked about a whole bunch of things that come together with a lot of these things we're talking about tonight. The other thing I want to talk about, and we'll see there's assessment and measurement, very important, instructional materials, learning activities, looking at active learning within your online courses and in person, course technology. But the one that's really on our focus right now is accessibility. And so understanding that those are things that you need to make sure there's no red font in your courses, that our goal as a team for the accessibility report is 95% or higher. We want to aim to get there. Tim, where are we at right now as far as a college with accessibility?
We've jumped up to 86%, I believe, institution-wide, and that's based on our current spring term for all the courses.
And you can check that over here in books and tools. And you can go down to accessibility report. And this is our faculty resources. So, get ready.
Yeah.
This
could be interesting.
Faster. It's a very big course. 85%. We will do better. Okay, so going back to that last slide, that's another component, an important component of the quality matters. And when we do ultra reviews, we are aiming for 85% or higher. Now, that you don't have to get 100%. Lots of people come in here and say, well, I got to get 100%. No, you need to get near 85%. And then you're always going to continually build and grow your course. Our goal is not 100%. It's over 85%. I'm going to hand this now over, I believe. Is it still me? Uh-oh. We're having some lag.
Wrong way.
Here we go. One more. Me again. Okay, so let's talk here. And we got Steve and we got Josh, and you guys can turn on your mic. So we have 2 full-time faculty with us because I know we're going to have some adjuncts and other people watching this course on replay. So as you're thinking about your courses, what do you find to be the most challenging as you're thinking about quality matters, or you're thinking about building your courses so that they're best for students?
I think of how I'm going to touch on like ways to get online learners engaged, in-person learners engaged, and then asynchronous learners engaged. That's probably like the hardest thing that I think of when it comes to course design and everything like that.
Okay, good. I like that. We're still working on that. And there's some things in course design we can do to increase engagement. Lots of times the students, this first one, what is the why? Like, we're looking at those competencies and why do we have those competencies? Why are they important to their future? Why are they important to that course? And we find a lot of courses don't necessarily have that. They also don't always connect things. And that's the second one on there. So if you just have an activity in there, but you don't connect it to a learning objective, you don't connect the idea that that learning objective is going to be learned through the activity, then learned again, or showcased through the assessment, then you're going to see students don't find value in things that aren't connected. Steve, you got anything out there?
I think with the Flex Lab setup, this is obviously an ongoing basis as far as how to get students engaged, not just in the lab, because we're mostly hands-on, but get them engaged as far as within the course, in the material within the course. So that's always a struggle. I found that videos work quite a bit, but getting the learning objectives out there so they can understand not only why they're doing it, but how to do it too. So that's always a struggle.
Yep. I agree. I agree. And so like that third standard up there, it's like you guys are leading me to these. That's perfect. Thank you. That third standard up there, a lot of times they don't know what to do, because I've noticed in courses we don't give enough direction. And one of those things with UDL is we want to think about every student. And you think about your strongest student, you think about the students with the most challenge. Maybe they have the challenges with reading. You got to make sure that those things can be read to them. For example, maybe your textbook could be an opportunity where you can have your textbook be read instead of they have to read it. But the third one here talks about, giving criteria, giving direction. We'll go into courses a lot of times and it's just a test. and there's nothing that tells you what competencies are being evaluated. There's nothing that tells you what to do on that test, like how much it's worth and how it fits into the course. So connecting all those items. So so thank you both of you. But these three standards here from Quality Matters are ones that our faculty as a whole struggle with. And it's not just, some of them get it. Some of them got really smart with AI and found ways to make it a lot better. But it's one of those things we can work on. I'm not saying, and Josh, both of your questions, I'm not saying great course design is going to fix everything, but it's going to make sure, especially with that UDL in mind, that everyone has the opportunity to go back and do those things, and that they can find their way through the course more clearly. Look at that guy.
Look at that guy. All right. Well, I guess I'm up. We've been, it's a nice segue into talking about the design considerations from the last slide, because making those connections and think about that. Well, first off, Nick already alluded to the idea of backwards design and starting with those objectives and then working back from that, and creating that flow of learning. And by doing that, also, it kind of sets you up to make those connections at the module level, at the assessment level, all the way through. And then even at the end of the module, recapping what objectives you've already covered and what you're heading towards. And I know Josh is on here on the call, and we've been working on course design with those ideas and those features in mind here. The hard part is you're doing all that and you're still keeping in mind the idea of accessibility. So while you're building all of this and you're setting everything up to be based off of those objectives all the way to your assessment, and then your day-to-day, you're thinking about what materials can I put in there, what content, and how can I make it accessible to everyone in the course. So Steve, you were talking about Flex Lab situation and some of the different variables that come into that, and that's probably a key consideration there for learner support as well. Like how do you provide the tools and the things that are needed in that Flex Lab situation on a regular basis? And part of it is in that design factor. We've got the student support. Nick already talked about that briefly. We've been working in the CITL area really hard each term to keep that updated and then keep the latest and the greatest in there, while also making it accessible, which has been a challenge too, because even the simplest things like maps, become like, problematic within the accessibility world. But providing that learner support along the way is one of the key things. And then UDL, based off of all the students that are going to be taking your class, how can you do learning in a number of different ways to support students? And then finally, you got that relationship and connection, which kind of ties it all the way back to the backwards design anyway. And that's just consistency, all the way throughout the course. I think that's probably our biggest thing. Nick talked about opening a test and the instructors say, the instructions say, take the test. Or you open up a reading document and it says, just read pages such and such. And, things like that. That's not great on any of these fronts. It doesn't make any connections. And for consistency wise, it just kind of sets your student up for not really having a great experience within the course. Okay. And Josh, you mentioned this too, that idea of modality. Like, who are you setting this all up for? I think more and more we're going to start leaning towards this idea that all courses are kind of built for the online experience. So you always have that option of turnkey online, but also you still have that ability to have people in person, face to face, and then you have the My Choice component as well. So not easy, and definitely an upwards hill battle, but that's what we're doing here. That kind of leads into this next slide as we take a look at this. This
Can I
is an
say something really quick?
example.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
go
still
ahead.
right? Can I
Yep.
just one thought there was like, when we got to also consider, if we're going to want engagement, we just can't place a video in a course with nothing after it. Like, there's got to be questions that are going to have the student reflect on it. There needs to be a journal or something there that could have the student reflect on it. We just can't leave things in there and hope they watch it. Like there's got to be a time where they watch it and then they have to have some time to, show what they've learned.
Can I also add just a couple little things? Because the next two slides are going to be us looking at videos of a document and how they're set up and how they look and how they can be utilized and things like that. I just wanted a couple things to go on the record that we in CITL have said very often, right? If you have that luxury of teaching in person, that's how I often like to say it, and we don't think that we need our learning management system to be up to snuff so much on that course design, what I like to say is that you're preparing your students for any time, anywhere learning to occur, right? So regardless if they're in lab today, they're in direct instruction with you tomorrow, if it's 11 o'clock at night and I know I have a test with you tomorrow in person and I want to study for it, can I do that to be successful? Do I know where to go in your course? Do I know what resources are available to me and can I get to them in order to help myself succeed, right? I think also COVID taught us that we need to have that turnkey readiness to flip the switch on a learning modality like that. And something that the three of us very often did, even in person, was have our learning management system up on the board and teaching out of it. Everything was in there. And while that might seem redundant to some, or it might seem like you're being too thorough to some, you're showing students, how did I get there? Why did I put it there? Why is it important? And we're using it and there's a reason for it, right? Like you're just reinforcing so many things. And then lastly, like as I've been designing courses with faculty, I've been going from like start to finish. And again, when you think you're being too thorough, when you think you're being redundant, you're really not. You're doing it for student success and for that message to really sink in and for it to be streamlined and consistent. One tiny example is I'm going to show the term medical terminology and the phrasing of a biweekly assessment checkpoint. We wanted the word biweekly to go away, right? And the faculty member said to me, well, actually a chair, that's not that big of a deal, right? And I was like, actually, that wording is in about 50 different places in your course right now. And so I had to go through and update 50 different areas and different pages and different instructions and is that a lot of work? Yes, that's a lot of work. And I get why faculty maybe are hesitant to put it within their course because then it's more areas to update. But what are you doing it for? Student success, right?
Yeah.
To make it clear, to make it understandable, intuitive, and just to like, now I can succeed because I keep seeing the same thing again and again and again. And I know exactly what to do now.
What's
Yeah.
redundant to you might not be redundant to the student. Like, right? Like it's not about you, it's about the student.
And that's a great way to tie it back to, we've got learner support on this slide listed as like the BTC module, but really your entire course shell is learner support. I mean, it's nonstop things that can go back to, and the UDL part of it as well. You don't know which parts the learner is going to grab at different points. I mean, for instance, Josh is connected with us in his car with his child in the back seat right now, where you're going to have a lot of different ways that students connect to your materials. You don't know when they're going to connect to them, and like Amber said, if you have that luxury of face to face, that's awesome. But who knows if they're really learning it when they're face to face? They may revisit aspects of what you said, talked about, showed during your lectures and your flex labs and different situations like that. And the only way they're going to do that is in a well laid out course shell that's going to, again, lead them along the way and they're going to be familiar with. It's not some foreign thing that they're going to go to once in a while to turn assignments into. It's part of the living, breathing coursework. So yeah, those are great points. Before Nick flips to this next thing, I'm just going to preface it, and I think Nick's going to have to pause the video right away so I can kind of talk about it. But as Amber said, you're going to see two different courses here. There's an example that you're going to see on this next slide, and Nick's pausing it. This is like my sample digital media course that I've been working out of, and our goal has been showing what modules kind of look like right now in our Ultra transition, and what they could look like after you get a chance to revamp this. And Josh, I know you're familiar with this content because we like copied and pasted this module right into your course, and you were kind of using it as a little bit of a template to build off of, and have had a lot of success with that. But Steve, you're also going to see that this module is way more streamlined now. It takes out some of those extra documents that maybe didn't really have a strong purpose and didn't have a connection to the learning materials, where you can see this is my lecture joined with my knowledge checks, joined with different notes and different things that I'm going to share. Like, you're going to see that in this example. So what we're looking at here, as Nick's going to kind of navigate for me, is we've got the reimagined module there. And as Nick plays this, you can see we go in, and the very first thing in the module is that idea of connection. You list your course competencies. You've got your week 1 assignments that are going to be up and coming. This is your first chance. Again, this is part of the backwards design. If this is what I want to accomplish in this module, and this is what I want to, see along the way as we move into the next things. Okay, so as it plays along a little bit further here, again, this is just the module overview document. And you can see, if you haven't used it a lot, there's on the left side, we've got the table of contents for a module. Now we're looking at a lecture 1 module. And again, we're making that connection with some key points, things that we want to focus on, an objective that's going to be the key objective for this module. You've got your knowledge checks at the bottom, and then you can see the green arrow at the very bottom that is kind of a signpost to the next step, or what's coming up down the road here. But you'll also notice, if you can pause it, Nick, that there is not just a lecture video, not just a reading assignment, not just like a transcript from your video or a summarization or recap. All of it is put together. So they're all making the connections. People are watching the video. It's all accessible. It's got all the features of QM in there. But then immediately on the heels of the video, you've got your follow-up questions going there. And then you're also kind of pointing the way to what's coming up next in the module. So again, just tying everything together from one step to the next. So now we're going to navigate to the next thing here. Was that the end of that video, Nick? Take a look here. Sorry. There we go. And now we're into the week 1 competencies. So we're back to the beginning there.
I think it
We're all over the
restarts.
place.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, we may have been to the end of it, actually. Yeah. I guess the main thing we wanted to show there is, in that week 1, instead of putting, everything separately in all different documents, we've got it all tied together into one nicely laid out document. And the nice part about this is this document is still 100% accessible too. The video is accessible, all of the text is accessible, any pictures, the knowledge checks, all of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Amber here. She's got another course to kind of show you.
Yep, and I'll give a little bit more of a tour of this course in just a moment. This video is just one document page. It was just a reimagined course overview page. So I gave a little title picture, and I broke it down to a why. I started with the why. Why is this course important? What's the what? What are learners going to achieve and know and be able to do at the end of this course? And then how can I be successful, right? What are my minimum requirements? This is our OER textbook, right? It's provided through the WTCS network. I sourced it here as well, but then I provided them with their first resource too. So this is a YouTube navigation video of how to navigate through that OER text and start to become familiar with it. Lastly, as of right now, this course is in a fully online modality, so I talked about more minimum technology requirements. on this grading policy, and I can go into more detail too, but like these charts, these tables break down their grade a little bit more clearer for them as well, right? Like how many assessments do they have? What's the point breakdown? What are some of their expectations? And then finally, a little bit more new and perhaps controversial at this point, but I can go into it a little bit further later on as well. We have a transparency disclosure for AI usage that we used, in addition to an AI policy for student expectations. Go ahead, Josh, you have a question?
So I totally understand the point of the breakdown. I actually really like it. So I'll
Sure.
probably end up utilizing that. But I can immediately tell when students are there for the experience or to learn. And then there you have the point students, the students who are just there to get the points and then move on. Whatever, that's fine. But would that incentivize students to know what to do and what not to do and calculate, where they can check out of assignments and not when giving something like that?
Maybe instead of showing all of the points, it's to me, it's just more so about being like transparent right from the start as to what their assessments are and how they're going to be graded on it a bit. So maybe you could show the overall percent or the overall amount of points that all of those assignments have rather than individually. Do you think that might address some of your concern there?
Yeah, I think the percentage may be
Sure.
good. Yeah, that's
And you
probably
can lay
better.
that out however you want, but like even just a table or chart that goes over the type of assessments that they're going to be seeing as like a heads up is really the big thing for me. The faculty member, or rather, again, chair that I was working with in this case, she had it all laid out like that on her syllabus. So we put it in that chart like format here too. She broke it down by type, by assignment, by point, like very clearly like that. I think if you lump them together and just say you're going to be having a quiz in each module, you're going to have this appear here and there, that's good just to give them a heads up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like this. It's a good visual.
Awesome. I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question here. I
Yeah.
mean, and I love what's going on here as far as that the screen right there. But I guess my question is, isn't this already in the syllabus as far as all of this?
Absolutely. Again, right? Like that's a very valid point, and you're totally right. But if we can be honest and frank, how many of our students are reading that syllabus, right? Um, and
Well,
and maybe they're not looking at this either, right? Maybe they're not.
yeah, I mean, within every course, within a lot of the math division, we go over the syllabus in class, because we are Flex Lab, each course. So you're talking every 7, 8 days, we're going over a syllabus. So gets a little redundant,
Yeah,
but that way, they still know the expectations and everything.
sure.
But I do like it being laid out like this, though.
Yeah, it's and maybe it's a different representation, like within your syllabus, maybe it's more lumped together. And then maybe in your Start Here module, it's broken down more module by module, perhaps, instead of lumped for the entire class. I mean, those are two alternatives to vary it up a little bit too. But it's just providing more transparency. Like I said, is it another area to update? Is it another area to change and edit when you have to? Yes, but you're providing more accessibility, more thoroughness, more consistency, and more visibility and transparency. This is what you're graded on. This is what I expect. This is when these assignments are due, perhaps, things like that. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to see a presenter from UW-Madison, and he talked about kind of that in the moment kind of thing, where you know in the moment when you're there that you need the information. And a lot of times that syllabus is all the way back in the Start Here, and you're in module 7. And now you're in the moment in module 7. And how do you make that connection to that content at that point? And Steve, you got a pretty good advantage of being able to see people face to face and go through the syllabus on a regular basis. And that's awesome because that does make those connections exactly like you would want to. Some people though, they don't get that opportunity to go through that syllabus on the daily or once a week or once even every couple weeks. So again, that connection of listing those competencies at the beginning of the module, in the assessment, making those connections. That's the in the moment need to know kind of thing. And then students don't put it out of their mind like, oh, that's future me, I'll worry about it there. And then I always think about it because Josh and I have had some good conversations about this. I think a lot of this is also a whole bunch of like covering your butt as an instructor. Like, I mean, it alleviates a lot of future argument. That it's hard to have a grade dispute when you have all of this clearly spelled out, you know, from one module to the next, and everything's tied together, and that's pretty nice. So
I
that's all
agree.
I wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I've even been linking the same info and the same material elsewhere in the course. And you can just like see it in the instructions. This was shown in the grading policy, and there it is. This was shown in the very first introduction of this whole checkpoint process, and here it is. So like you
And-
just keep covering yourself, yeah. Mhm.
Steve, you're doing the right thing by covering that syllabus in your course also. And I'm going to say this because there's other people that are watching there. They're not in the MAT division. They're not teaching, having to develop 35 courses, right? Or 50 courses. So Josh has got a different kind of feel for his. He's got 2 big courses. His students are going to see a syllabus once, and then they're going to wait 16 weeks for that
Yeah.
class to happen. So it looks a little different. And again, going to echo everything else we've said before is like, it's about, hitting every student. Some students are going to see that syllabus. They're going to just blank out of that whole conversation. Where are they going to find it? So we have different ways to represent that information.
I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I think in each module, it's laid out here, I think it's a very good idea. And what Tim said to a certain point, covering our butt a little bit. That would definitely be one aspect. And 2, it's easily accessible as far as, hey, look, go look at your module checklist. It's right in it instead of having to go back to the syllabus every time. So I agree with it for sure.
Yeah, but you live in a whole different world with 35 different developments. So I understand if you need to find ways to save time. So I'm going to let Amber take back over and tell me where she wants me to go in this course. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you throwing out those ideas because everyone that's in here is hearing this stuff, and when they watch this later, it's going to be perfect.
Maybe just spend a little bit time towards the bottom of this grading policy. I don't think I need to go over the Start Here module that much more. Just to preface this course, medical terminology has only been taught in an online modality thus far. It's about to be turned into a Maya choice format. And what started as it didn't really have a clear lead instructor on it, and it was being taught by a series of adjuncts. Yet it's a course that is required for multiple health science division programs as like a prerequisite early on within their program sequence, turned into an entire refresh and like revamp and redesign. We decided it really wasn't passing our ultra review. It really wasn't meeting our Quality Matters course design. But Kelsey Doyle, who's okay with me kind of having these, open and frank conversations, met with me, and what started as that turned into, okay, no, we need to redo the whole course, right? We found the OER content again through the WTCS network. They have a great online repository of OER contents that you can use, and this one's very well done. And it's all still state aligned. And then we also used AI, right? Especially with scenarios and simulations. AI is fantastic with that. So I had, again, a very open and honest conversation with her and said, if you want your students to be modeling, or if you want to be modeling and show students how it's important to disclose AI usage, this is the place to do it, right? Like, I think they're all going to know that these scenarios and simulations that we came up were done by AI. It's pretty obvious, right? Like, we didn't copy and paste it. We used parts and pieces, and we verified, and we fact checked and all that kind of stuff. And that's what our disclosure says. But this is a great starting point where it'll probably surprise a lot of students. Oh, I actually have an instructor telling me that they're using AI for parts of this course, right? Like, you're going to encounter some scenarios and some simulations that were created by AI. Additionally, here's your general AI policy, and it goes more in depth than like what our WID syllabus guidelines would do. So how is she very specifically okay with them using it just for like those early planning and brainstorming type procedures, right? And we gave very specific examples too, like it's okay to help define a concept or simplify a concept if you're really struggling with it. You can use it for some tutoring and back and forth, but it should never be used on an assessment in this way. And it's okay to set up those parameters, right? And I think it's important to start including this in your classes,
Well,
basically.
the idea, Amber, is if we don't have a plan, then we have to react. And a lot of instructors right now are reacting to AI. And if you don't have a plan in place, there's no boundaries that's been set. And you talk about
It's
parameters.
it's okay to say, like, if you're not sure, contact the instructor. If you're not sure, check your textbook or course resources first to verify. And it's okay to say it's never okay to use it on this. Like that's up to you and your beliefs and your permissions and what you want restricted for AI. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so I kind of like tie this back into the syllabus as well. I don't remember who said it, but it's like a way to like cover your butt. I do that as well. So like the first in the Start Here module, I have an acknowledgement quiz, and they have to complete that acknowledgement quiz at 100%, in order to unlock module one. And that quiz goes over the use of AI, the ethical uses of AI, which you're allowed to and what you're not to allowed to use it on.
I like that.
And then I was working with Tim, and um, I kind of adopted this idea through conversation we had where because I don't like AI on my discussions. To tie back in what or to interweave what Nick was saying not too long ago, um, visuals and like using certain things like that, that's all like good. And I like the idea of tying in the like don't use AI on discussion boards. I felt like last semester I was wasting a lot of my time. 90% of the discussion boards were AI. And again, nobody's getting anything out of that. So I used a visual on that. And then that's also covered in both the syllabus and in that complete acknowledgement quiz that I have in the Start Here module.
I love that. In fact, the way that you named that, an AI acknowledgement quiz, I think it would be pretty irrefutable to say, like, I'm fairly positive you're using AI here. Let's have an open conversation, but let's also reference the fact that you took this quiz and you acknowledge the fact that you shouldn't be using it in this way.
That's exactly how I do it. I have a couple different template responses that will allow them a chance to have a discussion. Because in that quiz, I also touch on the importance of effective communication. And so I kind of get to reference both of those when situations like that arise.
It's very smart. Very smart. Thank you for sharing that. Nick, do you want to maybe just show a tiny bit of module one? I won't go too far
Yep.
into it. I do want to highlight some of the really cool things of that OER content though. So in the module overview, we do show the competencies that are being addressed, and we kind of break it down into somewhat of a what, why, how, but their words were, what are you preparing in this module? What are you practicing throughout the module? And then what are you producing in terms of assessment? And so we maintained that language, but their learning goals are there. Everything's embedded. So even though they have an OER content, I've taken the learning objectives of both chapters, the summary of the chapters, and then embedded the links. So if a student has to read it, it's here, right? Like everything learning content for both chapters is here. They have the documents of their terms. They have an audio file of every single term because eventually they're going to have to pronounce them. They're going to have to say them out loud. And then lastly, if there were supplemental videos that were included with that chapter from the OER content, it's there. They don't have to go to that OER. Everything is on this page, okay? What's also great about these OERs is in the check for understanding, they immediately follow them, and the WTCS network made these. I have them embedded right here. They can do them as many times as they want. Check for, and if at the top of every single one of these, I say, check for your understanding right after engaging with your learning content. Then come back here to study for your quizzes and tests, like come back and redo these. So yeah, that's there. They have additional review activities, but yeah, you got one right. That's good. And there's
I
some
can't pull the
really
other one up.
good, there's some really good interactive checks for knowledge, learning activities. This was all done by the OER, so I just embedded it. That's all I did. For their pronunciation assignment, they have an embedded Quizlet. It's just very interactive. So if you want to go to pronunciation quick, they can hear their terms through that Quizlet and flip through and practice it one more time. And then they're recording themselves saying those terms. That's an assignment in every single module. And then lastly, they have like a checkpoint process that they go through where they pick 1 out of 5 patients to choose from. This is their checkpoint 1. See those links? That's that link every single time to, you saw it here in the start module, you saw it here in module 1, you saw it here, and like they can click on it and go right back to it if they need it, right? It starts the same every single time. So when the word biweekly assessment checkpoint turned into assessment checkpoint, I had to change it all over the place, like I said. But yeah, they get to pick their patient and then they go through with that patient, 2 body systems combined, and turns into a final project. It's pretty cool. So I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we showed the king of QM before we
sorry.
moved on to his course right there. Thank you, AI. So we're going to look at Tim's course now, Tim Nobling in IT. And it's really interesting. IT does their start here a little different than everybody else. They have, like, look at it right away. Every course, they have like 50 courses. They're all built practically the same. They have a how does this course work? What they did is they kind of merged all the different things that we gave you as you started the ultra course transition with the template, and they tell you the time it's going to take for each thing. You go in here, talks about the course information, talks about how you progress through a course and how you actually check things off. This is above and beyond. Like Tim goes above and beyond. Course structure and the time that they need to be there, 6 hours. What do they need for success? What do they need for technology? We get into the communication expectations. Nothing major here, but like best practices. Domains, they do a syllabus acknowledgement. What will you learn in this class, or this course? And they have right away their different course competencies. And then another thing that's really cool is they do a pre-test. They want those students to start getting that prediction in their brain of the things that they're going to need to learn. So they give them a pre-test to kind of kick off that course. Now, another thing I want to drive into here with, this is really unique how they do their teaching. They actually build their teaching within not documents, but activities. And they have release conditions. So this release condition, you have to have that assessment baseline done for this first document to open up. Now, when we go in here, they do their teaching right in the directions area of the assignment or of an activity. And then they have their assignment built into there. So their questions are built in for the review of the content. Never saw anybody do that before until Tim came around, and it's really a cool way to do it. And he does that in all his courses. I'm also going to take down, we're going to move down to the bottom, and they have their capstone courses. Now, one thing that Tim does, and I'll finish up with this, they have those capstone course things, but they do not open up down here until the smart eval. No, if you're having problems getting smart evals done, these capstones don't open up until the smart eval is done. All right, and so they have a link to their smart eval. They do that smart eval, they acknowledge they did it, and now their capstone projects will open up. And they actually use the offline submission. So there must be something that is done within hands-on. So these students in this class are working on the course online at home or in class, and then they're coming in and doing the hands-on. So now we're going to hand it off to Tim to talk about DMS Clinical 1.
Yeah. So the first thing that you'll notice, this is Michelle Lee's course that she built out here, and she gave us permission to go through this. She was excited to have the content shared, and she's done a lot of work in here to make this look really nice and be very structured and fit the content. And she's just very purposeful with all of her design, which is great. You'll notice though that as Nick scrolls down, we're scrolling down to module 1 here. So the course is built in reverse. If you've ever seen like one of Erica Fenton's courses, they're built in reverse too. So as a student, when you satisfy these release conditions, which these are time-based, when you get to that next week that the module opens up, it's the most current module that's at the top of the course, and it eliminates a lot of scrolling, which is great because you got 8 modules going on and they're pretty involved. Now, normally Nick and I get a little leery of modules that have folders in them, but this is a great example of how within module 1, which is week 1's content, we've got videos. Those videos only relate to week 1 content. They're not week 2, they're not week 3, they're not all the videos from the whole course, but those videos are all tied together for week 1 in that one area. And we've come to the conclusion that really with this course, there's a lot of different things you're kind of sharing. So for example, we've got the assignments. The assignments for week 1 are in a folder. They're all together in the week 1 module. And again, it's making pretty good connections between all of that content. I get a little nervous as I was scrolling through this. I was like, oh no, folders. But this is exactly how you should use folders if you're going to use them. Where you go wrong with folders is when you start just dumping all of your tests and quizzes and everything into one folder, and you're supposed to like bounce back and forth as a student. That's not good for connections.
Well,
So-
modules are about flow of learning.
Yep.
Folders are more of like a resource place. And so like in a clinical setting, they don't know when they're going to have each of the assignment because they don't know when things are going to happen. So they put them in these so that students can select as things happen.
Yeah, and I mean, a great for instance is you only have the modules showing that you've interacted with or going to interact with. So like if I'm in week 3 of the term, only module 1, 2, and 3 are showing at that time as a student. So I don't see module 4, I don't see module 5, I don't see all that. I know they're coming because the release conditions are there, but I'm not necessarily being distracted by all that extra clutter that's in there, which is also nice. In this week 3 to do, you can see the to do folder. We've got activities that are in there. Some of it is lab based, some of it is assignments. This is a clinical class, so it also ties in that component as well. They've been working very hard to make connections between how do you grade a clinical and how do you tie that back into your Blackboard shell. And I know that's a frequent conversation that a lot of classes that have, well, I'll use Tony as an example. Tony's got lab, but his lab is out at the EPD lab. I mean, it's out at the poles outside in the middle of nowhere, and there's not a whole lot of internet out there, but he's got offline submissions in his Blackhawk or in his Blackboard course shell so that he can come back with the rubrics that he's filling out in the field and add those right into the course shell to still have everything connect up there. And also to be transparent with the grades, like there's no mystery how the grades got in there. He's got a physical record and a digital record, and that's kind of nice. Yeah, so I mean those are probably the highlights of this course, other than the very nice design of everything. You know, yeah, it's an example of making those connections. So I think that just to drive that point home again, connecting it back to what we talked about earlier. So that takes us to what the second to final thing here. And that's you, Amber.
That is me. I had to turn my mic on. Okay, with very little time left, sorry, we just want to talk about briefly lots of different highlights, lots of different ways to do course design and to do it for the, improvement and betterment of our students. What's something that really resonated with you that you think a takeaway that you're interested in using in your own course design? You can put it in the chat. You can say it out loud, whichever's easiest.
I'll go ahead and speak up. I think I think within the diesel program, a little bit more structure within the individual modules to instead of just right now I've just got a checklist. You're going to do this and then you're going to go with this and this and this. I'd like to incorporate some type of online type quiz. That way, if I don't have them in the lab or whatever, it'll spark maybe a little bit more conversation as far as when I do have them, or even online when they're online. So maybe a little bit more clarification as far as that part.
Okay, nice, thank you. I also
does
like how
sound good.
Tim Nobling put the time commitment on every single page, by the way, too. I just want to highlight that that's something very unique that he does. But considering that it's like flex learning at its best, like it gives you, okay, I have 3 hours that I can devote to this course today. Looks like I can knock this whole module out, so I'm going to do it, right? I can within seconds decide if I can, manage that time commitment for the course that day. So I really like that they do that too.
I know I'm redesigning the new faculty experience courses, and I will have an AI policy statement in there. I need to start showcasing that to our new faculty so they know that's important. Not having that plan, like I said earlier, is a plan to fail. You're gonna struggle. I know, Josh, you talked about that. Like, you don't want to walk in every day and have to figure out what's AI and what's not. You're still gonna have issues, but
Yeah.
at least if you're transparent, the students know you set the standard.
You're addressing it and you're trying to be proactive, which is better than doing nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah, AI use has been one of the most frustrating things. Big learning curve.
Well, I would just like to say your student population mirrors very closely to medical terminology. And so, anyone with that kind of student where it's a course that feeds and funnels into so many different programs, right? And so many of our students have to take it. It's very strategic and smart of you. It really is.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
Hey, so we want to thank you guys for being here and everybody else out there that's watching it. We have 2 more FQS foundations and we are done for the school year. We do have the survey. I did put a survey link in the chat for those folks out there, or there's the QR code. And you'll also find the survey within the faculty resources within this document. So thanks for being here. Have a great day, evening, whatever part of the day you're in, because you might be watching this in the morning. Who knows? Thanks for being here.